So, Shannon, who won the trade?
The Clippers won the trade. Skip, their owner, Steve Ballmer, is the wealthiest owner in pro sports. He's worth an estimated $40 billion. So for him to pay this salary is nothing. For him to be in the luxury tax is nothing. But he probably went to Jerry West, who's the GM, and says, hold on, why am I going to pay average $35 million per year and be the 8th or the 9th seed, possibly be in the luxury tax hell? Why am I doing this? On a guy that has a history of being injured. Because when we look at this contract, Skip, and say another year, and they got another 3-4 years to pay him Blake Griffin $100+ million, are we going to say, is this a bargain, or how do they get away from this albatross? They saw they tried it. Chris Paul asked for a trade. They tried the Blake Griffin experience, and what was looking like, they're going to be 8th or 9th seed. Makes no sense to me. We knew DeAndre Jordan. We knew Lou Williams were on the block. I don't think anybody saw this. But if you ask me who won the trade, I'm going to take the Clippers for the simple fact they get rid of this huge, huge salary. Skip, do you know Blake Griffin mid-range game is worth than Ben Simmons, Jay Crowder, even Dwight Howard are shooting better from the mid-range than Blake Griffin. And here's the thing, this is what we know about athletes. When they rely so much on athleticism, and that's what Blake Griffin is, he's a freakish athlete, and when that starts to wane, then what? Yeah, he hits an occasional three-point shot, but everything, his whole game is based around athleticism. I believe the Clippers won this trade. What it looks like to me, they want young players, they want draft picks, because they're clearing out and they're going to rebuild this thing from the bottom, Skip. And Blake Griffin was not going to challenge. They're not getting close. They're not going to anywhere. They're not going to challenge the West. They're not beating Houston. They're not beating the Warriors, the OKC or the Timberwolves. So what? And Steve Ballmer, and they're like, what are we doing here? Why are we paying $35 million to be 8th, 9th, or the 10th seed? It makes no sense. Now, for Detroit, Skip, I don't know what they were thinking. What? They're going to be the 5th seed, the 6th seed? They're not going anywhere. Now, I get it. Blake used to playing with a big man, played with DeAndre Jordan for a number of years, so he should find his niche right alongside Andre Drummond. But they're not going anywhere with Blake. Blake Griffin is not a franchise changer. They do get the star player that they, maybe they want or they need in Detroit, but Blake Griffin's not going to change anybody's life in the NBA.
Interesting. You would say that. So, I do agree with your bottom line. The Clippers did win this trade, but I think you have it all upside down and backward. That's just me. I think your timeline is wrong. I remind you that back on July the 1st, the Clippers, led by Steve Ballmer and at that point Doc Rivers, who was also the GM, staged a huge presentation at Staples for one Blake Griffin, to wine and dine and woo him back into the fold till death do they part. Blake, you're going to be a Clipper for life. That was the big presentation that day, and they had a whole maze that Blake walked through with his son, with all pictures from his childhood, and then University of Oklahoma, and then his early days Clipper, winning the slam dunk contest. Remember that moment when Blake arrived, when he launched himself over the hood of that Kia in that slam dunk contest back in 2011, just about 7 years ago. And that made him a superstar, except as a basketball player. I never liked Blake Griffin. I'm going to say it one more time. I was on the record before the draft, and everybody laughed at me and went on for weeks. And I said, Steph Curry will be way better than Blake Griffin in the NBA. And he's like way, way, way better than Blake Griffin is in the NBA, to all of your points. But Blake Griffin was perceived by Steve Ballmer and Doc Rivers as that superstar piece that they would continue to rebuild around after Chris Paul had exited.
That is correct.
So they convinced Blake Griffin to be a Clipper for life, and they gave him 5 more years and $171 million. It averages out to like $35 million a year. It is an outrageous, to use your term, albatross of a contract. And yet, Jerry West had been hired, but Jerry West was not in charge. I am the biggest Jerry West fan on the planet. I have always been in awe of what he has done, because I remind you, he started off running the Lakers, and he managed to trade Vlade Divac for the ability to pick one, Kobe Bryant, right?
Yep.
wow, he picked that kid from Philadelphia. I wonder how that's going to turn out. It worked out pretty well, right?
What about get Pau Gasol for Kwame?
Ooh, that works. But how about talking Shaq out of leaving Orlando and coming to Los Angeles? Did that not a help?
I mean, Disney's fine, but you could be in LA, Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Shaq loaded up the diesel and headed west.
For a while, he teamed up with Kobe Bryant. It worked okay, didn't it?
Yeah,
okay.
Unbelievable.
And Jerry West hired Phil Jackson to coach them and try to sort of make peace between them, and it worked for a while, a good while.
It did.
And as you said, he went to Memphis and just started from scratch, and he built a playoff team, right? This is Jerry West. And then going back to, 2011-ish? Going back to, it's been about 4 years ago. He goes to Golden State, and very quietly, working in the background, I think he had a whole lot to do with building. He did, with everything, with the whole building of that dynasty, with the philosophy of it, with the drafting this piece and that piece and putting it all together. Jerry West, behind the scenes, was a powerful force in Golden State.
Correct.
And then, to your point about Steve Ballmer, deep pockets, he said, and I thought this was like a bargain, like a steal. He's paid him like $4 or $5 million to be the Lakers' sort of chief advisor, right? Just to oversee the operation. And then after Jerry West was hired and after they had talked Blake into committing to Clippers for life, then Jerry West said, Doc can't do both jobs. He can't wear both hats. It's not fair to Doc.
Right.
You can't do, it's hard to be. I know Belichick has pulled it off, but it's hard to coach and have total control of the personnel, and maybe that's not Doc's forte.
Because you can't lie, Skip. Because if you serve in both roles,
good point.
How you tell the player? Well, I wanted you, but the coach didn't. I wanted you, but the GM didn't.
Okay.
Hold on, wait a minute. You both of them.
You are both of them. And Doc did give his kid a whole lot of money. I think his kid's pretty good. Is it worth quite that much? You could argue that. But again, that put Doc in kind of a tough spot.
Right.
Put Austin in maybe a tougher spot.
Right.
And the point is, finally, they removed Doc and said, you just be the basketball coach. Jerry West has hired a couple of young sort of assistant GMs, that Trent Redden from Cleveland, who I think he was pretty good under David Griffin.
Yes.
And then that Mike Winger from Oklahoma City, who had also been in Cleveland. So he's got young, bright people under him. So they got a brain trust that they're building.
Did they cut Doc's salary?
I don't know about that.
Or if they did, okay. I'll be the head coach. You gonna pay me the same amount if I was serving both roles? Okay.
Okay, but Doc has lost the power of building the basketball team, and all of a sudden they watch Blake Griffin for a half a year or so, and they notice that his plus-minus is now second worst of his career, and he's shooting 44% from the field, which is his career worst. And his rebounds they've fallen to second worst in his career, and now he's approaching age 39, and his PER...
29,
I'm 29, sorry. And his PER is 34th, and that's about equal to how many millions he's going to make this year. 34th PER and 34 million. 2 plus 2 do not equal 4 to Jerry West.
Nope.
And they're saying, wait a second. Our superstar is really just kind of a star. He's not super, right? He's not in that upper echelon, as you precisely said. So now they managed addition by subtraction to get out from under that salary, which I can't believe. There's only one destination, one team that would have made that deal, and I believe it was the Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
Because they had shopped quietly Blake, and they said there was no interest anywhere on the market.
35 million?
Who wants that?
Yes.
Who wants that except?
If he was KD, he's
I got
LeBron, or one of those Anthony Davis.
I got you. But people know he's not that guy.
No.
Fans love him because he's a power dunker, right? And he, he's got a lot. You can just go on YouTube right now and look at all the dunk highlights,
Especially once he put Mozgov on that poster.
He did. He did.
It was over.
Yeah, and the Kia, over the hood of the
Barrett
Kia.
Davis taking the ball out of his hand.
There you go. Okay, so that's all great, but it doesn't win championships.
No.
And my problem with Blake, and he's a nice enough guy, although he did punch a staffer, remember, at dinner.
Yeah.
That was no good. That's just, there's no leadership intangible there. There's no burning desire to win championships. I never saw it. I watched him at the University of Oklahoma. And remember, he went back. This is always the telltale to me. If a guy goes back for a second year and you're supposed to be a superstar in the NBA and you think, I need another season of grooming, your big brother's kind of your bodyguard at Oklahoma, on the same team. And that should show you he's not that guy. He was never that guy. So what does Detroit need right now? They got a new downtown arena. What do they need? There's
Superstar.
nobody in there.
Yeah.
They can't fill their arena because they don't have a star.
Right.
So now they got a quote-unquote superstar. Quasi, because they can't get free agents to come there.
No.
They're going to have to trade. They traded for Reggie Jackson. It was not bad, so you got that going for you, but that's about it. And Avery Bradley had been kind of a bust for them, but I think he'll be good for the Clippers.
Right.
And Tobias Harris can play. He's a nice player, but he's quietly nice.
Yes.
And he doesn't have star power to him. But that's good that they got him back. And then they got a first rounder, and then they got a second rounder. And they got out from under $171 million. That's astounding to me. But Detroit needs some star, and Blake Griffin has star. He's got a marquee name.
Right.
And they can sell him a little bit. Maybe some people. They said he's going to try to play tonight. I hope he does against LeBron. So,
you hope he does.
Well, do you think they'll have some walk-up sales to see Blake Griffin in a Detroit uniform?
They might, but Skip, Lob City never fulfilled what it was meant to be. Chris Paul and
you would think if you put those with DeAndre together, you'd think it would click.
Well, first of all, Chris Paul wasn't supposed. He was supposed to be in L.A., but he was supposed to be in the purple and gold.
He was.
But David Stern nixed that and basically handed him to Donald Sterling. Why? Hey, we'll debate that another date and time, Skip.
Yep.
But it appeared to me. Now, I don't know Chris Paul. I don't know Blake Griffin. But it looks to me, from the outside looking in, they never liked each other.
I would agree.
And when you look at what they had an opportunity. They got by the Spurs. Everybody was like, this is the year.
And Chris Paul finally hit a shot.
This is the year. They got it. They got past Duncan and Pop and the Spurs. Oh, they got Houston.
And then it looked like they got him again, right? They're up 3-1 next round.
And then Houston. Let Josh Smith, he caught fire on them, and they hadn't looked back since.
Yep.
It makes no sense to me for the Clippers to hang on to a guy that's not going to drastically change your life. And he wasn't changing life, Skip. They're the 8th night, probably was going to be the 10th seed. At best case scenario, you're paying a guy $35 million. You're paying a guy that kind of money for that? For what?
And he has been, as you point out, incredibly injury prone, frighteningly injury prone.
His whole career.
34% of the last 4 years of games.
Yes.
Last 2 playoffs. He missed the final 2 games 2 years ago and the final 4 games last year. So he's just always getting hurt. I looked at the litany of injuries. He's hurt his back. He tore his quad, broken hand.
Knee. Remember, he missed his whole rookie season.
Staph infection. He broke his toe. He shattered his knee. I didn't even say that, the kneecap. He had a sprained MCL. He had a concussion. It's just like one thing after another after another. He's, for such a big, tough guy, 6'10", he's pretty fragile.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So now, as he approaches age 29, Detroit, you happy? Are you going to go forward with this? Are you going to risk? But it's all they got.
Right.
But it's going to be diminishing returns because I'm pretty sure his production will continue to slowly sink into the sunset. Right?
And because here's the thing, Skip. Look, Andre Drummond is a nice piece. He's basically 11 and 15. Skip, ain't nobody coming to see that.
Nope.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.